I'm back. My name is Emily, and this is the When Harry Met Onnie podcast. This is my podcast about knitting and crocheting. It's been a while. The last time I podcasted was at the beginning of September while I was on vacation, and it is now Monday, November 4th. My name is Emily. I am an attorney by day, and I live in Hershey, Pennsylvania with my husband and our two cats, Harry and Onyx, hence the title of this podcast, When Harry Met Onnie. You can follow me on Instagram at When Harry Met Onnie, that's ONNIE, and you can also find me on Ravelry as Mmeister. I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody who is checking out my podcast for the first time. I hope you like it. If I'm not your cup of tea, totally understand. But if you're coming back for more, thank you so much. And if you like what you see and you enjoy the podcast, feel free to like the video and subscribe so you can know when I post a new episode. Like I said, it's been quite a while. I tried to podcast every other week. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. It's not in the cards. And also every other week, if I'm on that schedule and I haven't knitted, I don't want to come on here and be like, look at all the knitting I haven't done. So it's been a couple months, so I do have some knitting to share. I have a finished object. I have several works in progress. I also have some knitting plans. I have a few things that I bought that I want to share with you, a couple unsolicited recommendations. So you get a little bit of everything this episode. So I hope you are ready for it. Also, for some reason, my cats are going crazy even though they've been fed, so you might hear Onyx chiming in once or twice or several times, so bear with me with the occasional meow. It's just, the nature of cat ownership, as I'm sure some of you understand. But without further ado, let's get into finished objects. So I have one finished object this week, and I am wearing it, and it is my Annalise wrap shawl. It is a asymmetrical shawl that is knit out of knitted wit in their Victory Fingering base, so a sock weight base, and there are 8 colors. The kit was a rainbow kit, so it starts with pink and goes to red, orange, yellow, green, teal, blue, then purple. And I've been working on this for a really long time, so I'm glad to finally finish it and have it off the needles. I have woven in the ends, but I have not given it a good block. So like the ends here you can see are still curling up. So I think blocking that will bring it down a bit. I don't really mind all that much though, but I'll still give it a block to even out the tension. I did notice that like in the beginning it started with the pink. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but it started with the pink and went to the red. And this section is much more narrow than how it finished. So, I've been working on this for over a year, and it's really clear that my gauge changed. That or just time kind of tightened up the fabric on the end that was a little bit older. So very pretty fade. I really love how this turned out. It's just a fun shawl. I wore it out as a scarf, but I kind of just like it draped over my shoulders as a wrap. My office is really cold, so this will probably be one of the shawls that I bring in to just wrap over my shoulders when it gets super cold. But there's a bunch of different things you can do with it. I think the picture shows it something like this, like kind of like this kind of look. So you can wear it like that, but I'm gonna wear it draped around my shoulders until it gets too hot. This was a pattern that was designed by Loop Knits. It is the yarn shop in Philadelphia where I purchased the kit. I actually bought it online, but when I used to live in Philadelphia, I went to the shop a few times, and they have a good advertising of their kits that are available in their shops. And so about a year and a half ago when I saw this kit advertised. I thought it was beautiful and immediately ordered it, but did not immediately finish it. But it's complete now, and that is my Annalise wrap shawl. Next up are works in progress. I have a few works in progress. The first one I'm going to show you, you haven't seen before because I started it since the last podcast episode, and it's actually a test knit. So I am test knitting the Spun Sugar Sunset Shawl by Amanda Purser, who is Birch and Lily on Instagram, and she also has a podcast, the Birch and Lily podcast, a great podcast. She gets through tons of projects. She podcasts, I think, every other week, and excellent sock maker and a fabulous pattern designer. So I was chosen to test knit this. The test knit has since finished, and I still haven't finished the shawl, but I hope to finish it within the next week and then block it and you know, promote the crap out of it and post pictures on Instagram and Ravelry so that Amanda has those pictures to also promote her pattern, finished pattern. So this is the shawl. It is a 3-color shawl made out of sock weight yarn, and it's kind of in that phase where it's like hard to show because the width has exceeded the needle width, but this will actually block out to a crescent shape. So okay, I'll talk about the colors. So color A is Fiberrarium. It's a worsted weight yarn, although the weight is much lighter than a worsted weight. This is supposed to be 3 skeins of fingering weight sock yarn, and I had originally bought this color, this Fiberrarium. The color is charcoal. It's 100% superwash merino. I had original. Cats are fighting. Anyway, sorry about that. I had originally bought this yarn in addition to this yarn to make the Way Through the Woods mittens by Erica Mount, one of those. It was a knit along hosted by Nina of the This Old Knit podcast and Kristen of Volenvine, and I knitted about half a mitten. It's a beautiful colorwork pattern, but I have since frogged the mittens because I was never going to finish them. So I decided it would be better to repurpose the yarn. So this is the other skein I have of Fiberrarium, super soft. And then the skein of charcoal obviously is now part of my shawl. So because it's designated a worsted weight yarn, I was knitting along with it, and then I realized that I only had 218 yards in the skein and that I would certainly run out. So I went on Ravelry and I went into like the stash section and looked up to see if anyone had the yarn. And I probably committed a cardinal sin because I messaged people on Ravelry who indicated that they had the skein, but they didn't have it for sale, and just said, hey, you know, I'm looking for a skein of this yarn. I don't know if you have it if you're willing to sell it. I know it's listed as being just in your stash and not for sale, but I would buy it from you for a project that I have. And I was really lucky because a young woman who lives close to me said that she had the yarn and that all she would be looking for would be to get back the price she paid for it. And I said, sold. So I went and we did a kind of sketchy Starbucks deal where she handed me a bag of something and I handed her cash, and in the bag was the yarn, but it looked a little shady. I mean, I probably didn't look really shady because she was like sitting and knitting, and I like was coming from a bridal shower and looked pretty put together. But anyway, so that was really fortunate that I was able to snag an extra skein of that yarn. And like I said, it really, the weight in this shawl, you really can't tell that this is designated a worsted weight. I would say if anything it's more of a sport weight, but I had been using it for mittens, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that. it doesn't seem like worsted to me. So that's color A. Color B is what this lace section is made of. And that is Hummingbird Moon. And I'll get the base right here. Hummingbird Moon Over the Moon sock in Spellbound. It's an 80% wool, 20% nylon polyamide blend. This was honeymoon yarn, so I purchased this I think I purchased it at Shuttles, Spindles, and Skeins on our honeymoon. And that is color B. Color C is this green color. This is, again, I want to get it right, the Fiber Universe Cosmic Sock in Little Green Men. It's a 90% superwash merino, 10% nylon. This yarn was so graciously gifted to me by Bethany, who is Creaky Pines on Instagram, and she also has a YouTube knitting podcast, and she's recently come back to podcasting and has like 5 or 6 episodes now, so I recommend checking Bethany's YouTube channel out. She has a really lovely podcast. So that skein of yarn made it into the shawl, and I was really happy about it. It is super soft, that Fiber Universe yarn in particular. So all 3 of these yarns are really special to me. The Fiberrarium yarn, the charcoal yarn, Fiberrarium was dyed by someone who lived in Harrisburg, and I think she has since relocated, but that's really local to me yarn. And then the Hummingbird Moon was yarn that I got on my honeymoon, and then the Fiber Universe was gifted to me by a friend. So this is a really lovely shawl. It is a paid-for pattern, so I don't want to give away too much about the design, but as you can see, there's these panels that are created through short row shaping. And I have to say that Amanda does an excellent job of walking you through German short rows, so don't be put off by the you know, complexity of short rows, or specifically German short rows. Actually, personally, wrap and turns can just go fly a kite. I would almost always use a German short row and substitute them out in patterns all the time for socks, for sweaters, everything. So these are German short rows, and really easy based on Amanda's instructions. So the pattern is now live on Ravelry. So even though I haven't finished mine, go check out the Spun Sugar Sunset Shawl on Ravelry. Also check out the hashtag and see what some of her other testers did. And yeah, just give it a whirl. I think it's a really awesome pattern. I've had a lot of fun knitting it. It does take a while because it's like 3 full skeins of fingering weight yarn, but it'll be a really lovely shawl when it's done. So that's my Spun Sugar Sunset Shawl. One last thing about that shawl is that it is living in my current favorite project bag that was gifted to me for my birthday by my parents. This is like the best project bag, and I know that I tell them that all the time, and they're probably like, yeah, but I'm gonna put it out there for the public to hear that I really love this project bag. It has this awesome cork bottom, and it's by Tammy Daneker Designs, Bags and Clutches, and I think she's based in Pennsylvania, but I could be wrong. But check her out. Great bag, durable canvas, cool fabric, cool little beads for the drawstring, and an awesome handle. Next up is my Soldatna Crop by Caitlin Hunter. I have made some progress on this since whichever episode I last showed it on, and my progress is being designated by this Unicorn Frappuccino stitch marker, which is right here. So at the time I last recorded, I had finished about 6 repeats. And the pattern calls for, I believe, 5 repeats of the flea stitch body pattern. Well, as I think I had mentioned on that last podcast, I'm a busty girl, and 5 repeats wouldn't even constitute a crop on me. So I am just continuing to knit. I have 2 skeins of this teal yarn, so I'm just going to keep going until it hits me at the hip. So I think from what I have, you know, from what I've been knitting so far and kind of how things are turning out, I think it's going to take about 12 repeats before I get where I want to be. And I am in the middle of the 11th. So I'll probably put the sweater on 2 sets of needles when I'm done with the 12th repeat and try it on and just make sure that once I have, you know, the inch or two of knitting after that, that it'll be a length that I want. I'm also debating whether to make the sleeves a little bit longer than the short sleeves. I think it would be really cute to have not 3/4, but like the sleeves that kind of come right above the elbow. I don't even know what that's called. Somebody tell me. But again, I'll have to see how much yarn I have left, and I'm not sure I'm going to be a really good judge of that. So let's talk about the colors. So this is all Dragon Horde yarn. I had 2 of the colors from like a grab bag that she did. So I had these 2 colors, and these are Acorn. This is the Magic DK base. It's 75% superwash wool, 25% nylon. Not sure what this gray color is. I always forget. And then the 2 that I bought when I went to the pop-up shop at the Knot House in Frederick, Maryland was Heirloom. And then the main color, I would say, although it's color 2 in the pattern, is, what is that? Evergreen. So this is how much I have of Evergreen on the 11th repeat. So I think I'll have enough to at least do a little bit longer sleeves, but I'll have to be careful. And in continuing the sleeves, I think I'll do what I've seen some other people who have done, you know, longer sleeve versions of the Soldotna do, which is I'll just continue this, this fleece stitch pattern for the sleeves and then end with the color 1 ribbing. So that is my progress on the Soldotna. You know, several inches of body. Hope to finish it soon. We're having Friendsgiving on November 23rd, so I thought it would be really fun to have this finished and wear it for Friendsgiving. I keep forgetting to tell you what bags I have things in, but this is just in my Shuttle, Spindles, and Skeins tote bag from Boulder, Colorado, and I love this bag for larger projects, especially sweaters. You can fit a lot of yarn in here. Next up, I have a work in progress that I showed a couple episodes ago. It's in this bag that says, "Make it all happen." This was a bag that was part of a giveaway that, I don't even know how to explain it. It was an event that actually Ann Taylor had a couple weeks ago for customers to come in and try on their new jeans, try on like a pair of jeans of their new line. And I actually didn't buy a pair of jeans, but I bought 2 dresses that were essentially full price. And so I spent enough money where I got like a little grab bag, and they gave away like 2 of these bags with this, like, I don't even know what kind of material this is. It's like plastic, but it's pretty durable. So I was like, oh, this will make a great project bag for socks. So I just put my current work in progress socks in here to just test it out. So yeah, it goes to show you can make a project bag out of things that, you know, normally wouldn't be project bags, but it works. So these are my Toe Up Socks with a Difference by Wendy Johnson. These are a gift from my dad, belated Father's Day gift at this point. And they're out of Knit Picks Felici yarn in the ribbit colorway. And here's my progress. So yeah, not much to say on these other than I finished the gusset and they're ready for heels. So hopefully next time you see them, I'll either be on the leg or done, and then my dad will be wearing them. But the difference in these socks is that the gusset is made on the bottom of the foot before you make the heel. It's a free pattern, so I'd recommend checking it out. And I'm knitting them 2 at a time, toe up. Also a relatively easy technique. that I would strongly recommend if you have second sock syndrome like me. So give that technique a whirl if you're feeling up to it. And yeah, I really like the self-striping with these socks. The Knit Picks Felici is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And I was watching some podcast, I don't remember whose it was, but she was saying that the Knit Picks Felici, it might have been Grocery Girls, that the Knit Picks Felici yarn is not very durable, or it might have been This Old Knit, I don't remember, but this yarn isn't very durable. So it'll be interesting to see how much wear they can take before they start to, you know, like if they get a hole or something. But I think the same podcaster was saying that Patton's Croy is much more durable, and I have a couple skeins of that, so those might be the next socks that I make. So there you have it. 2 at a time toe up socks for my dad. I have 2 more whips. They are both baby knits. And then I will move on to prime time, and then I have a quick section about, you know, kind of some random stuff that I thought I would give a plug and let you know some of the other things that I've been doing with my life in Emily's Random Corner. So this whip. I have this teeny tiny baby sweater. This is a flax by Tin Can Knits. This is made out of Knit Picks Swish Worsted in the Garnet Heather colorway. I cast this on to make for my boss's wife who was pregnant, and at the time they didn't know what gender baby they were going to have. So I cast it on and I was like, oh, well, if they have a girl, I'll give this to them. I cast it on with the size needles recommended, which is the size 6. However, once I got past the ribbing, I did not change to the size 8 needles. So it is a teeny tiny little baby sweater. As you can see, I got through the body. I decided I would just still finish it because, you know, even though it's really tiny, it'll still fit a newborn. The first size indicated was for 0 to 6 months, and I think I actually cast on enough stitches for the 6 to 12 months. But this is definitely like maybe like in utero to 3 months. So it was a little bit of a fail. And in fact, this project's on timeout because I just got really frustrated. I went to make the sleeves, and if you've knit a flax before, you know that it has on the sleeves, it has this like pearl band that goes all the way down the sleeves. Really lovely detail. However, when I picked up the stitches for the sleeves, I was just knitting and it just looked wrong, and then I ripped it out and then I started it again, and then I must have done 2 knit rows or 2 purl rows. It just didn't look right. So I ripped it back again, and then, you know, every time you like pick up stitches for the sleeves, there's a hole, and then I have to look up on YouTube how to pick them up without putting a hole in, and it's just a whole big deal. And I just didn't really want to work on it anymore. So this project has been given the timeout. But there's my flax by Tin Can Knits. As I mentioned, I have one more baby knit work in progress. This is living in my bag by NSP Designs. This is knit out of what is it? EYB Creative, not creative, creative with an I, DK, and it's 40% alpaca, 30% cotton, 30% modal. Thank you, Harry. That was really great. So this is the newborn Tristan cardigan. Here it is. It is a top-down cardigan, knit in one piece. So I guess you could say it's knit flat. And it has this really lovely cable detail down the front. And I'll post a picture of it here so that you can see, but it kind of like wraps around, and then there's buttons that keep it in place on the side. And I bought this thinking, oh, I could make a gender neutral sweater for my boss and his wife. And then as I was knitting, I picked this up and I thought it was really a nice gray, but it kind of is turning out to be more of a lavender. So again, would be super appropriate for a girl, but for a boy, you know, I would just personally rather give blue, green, orange, a neutral like a gray or a brown or something like that. So this will be, I think I'm going to make this for my best friend's sister who is expecting later this month. And they live in Florida, but they always come up to the East Coast for holidays. So I think it would be nice to gift this to her. So there's the newborn Tristan. It's a free pattern. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, sorry. It is by Mar Almagro. And I posted a picture of it on Instagram. It might just be better, you might just be able to see it better on Instagram. The other thing I would mention about this is that I picked out little buttons to put on the side. And so I picked out these little sheepy buttons. I hope you can see those. Thought they were really cute. So that's the newborn Tristan. That's really all the knitting that I've been doing since the last podcast. The only exception is that I started a night shift shawl by Andrea Mowry, and I'm using all acrylic yarn, and that project is also currently on timeout because I messed up the I-cord edge so many times that I just got so frustrated and I refused to pick it up until I figure out what I'm doing wrong. So stay tuned for that project, but it will be when I have better feelings about it. So anyway, so I'm gonna move into prime time. I have a few things to share, a few acquisitions. I took a trip with my dad. Actually, it was unfortunate because we went to a funeral, but on the way back, we were in a part of Pennsylvania, which we don't usually frequent. So on the way back, we hit a couple yarn shops. You know, to lighten the mood. So at the first yarn shop, it was called Yarning Skipback, and that is where I bought the EYB Creative, which I am making the newborn Tristan out of. That was a super cute yarn shop. They had a really cute like baby room, and they had a lot of baby knits. They had a lot of samples, so you could see what all the yarn and I love that. I think every yarn shop really does themselves a favor when they knit samples that customers go in. They say, oh, I wasn't really looking for a project, but you know, now that I see this newborn Tristan knit out of this yarn, I want to make that too. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I purchased that yarn at Yarning Skipback, and I also purchased the buttons there. And then we made our way to another yarn shop called Pearls of Wisdom in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. The first thing I got there was this mug, which has two cats. I think it's cats. It's cats. And they're overlooking some sheep, and it just says, I have got to get my sheep together. And I often feel that way, that I'm a cat who just has to get her sheep together. So I thought that was cute, so I bought that mug for myself. Oh, I should mention, I forgot to mention, but this is the yarn that I have left from my Annalise wrap shawl. So as you can see, it's a considerable amount of yarn. So I'm trying to decide what to do with these mini skeins. You know, whether I can build them into socks or maybe make a hat, maybe make some kind of multicolored hat, or put them with other types of yarn, maybe like a white yarn even, or black yarn would be kind of cool with some stripes. So I just had those out to you know, show you how much yarn I had left from this project. So that was our trip to Skipback and Phoenixville. No, that's not it. So at Pearls of Wisdom, I bought that mug, and then I also bought 2 skeins of this yarn, which is Sugar Bush Bold. It's 100% wool, extra fine superwash merino, 190 yards per skein. And this I bought to make a baby sweater for my boss and his wife, who just had a baby boy. So I think I'm going to make a flax and change the needles after I do the ribbing. But if I don't do that, I'm also thinking of making an antler cardigan, which is also by Tin Can Knits. I knit an antler hat last year, so I'm familiar with the cable detail. I have to say though, I think cardigans, I'm knitting that Tristan newborn cardigan, and it's just going really slow because you're knitting and then you're purling, and you're knitting and then you're purling, whereas with the flax, you can just knit in a round. So I think I might opt for the flax for this yarn. So hope to get this started and gifted to them within the next few weeks, because like I said, that kit is out. So I would love to make them a little sweater, and then maybe if there's leftover, like possibly a hat. And it's a good color because it's very fall, it's very autumnal. We're coming into Thanksgiving, so that's my plans for this. One acquisition I really wanted to share with you was a few mini skeins that I got from Asylum Fibers. I actually purchased Asylum Fibers yarn for a larger project, which I'll talk about in a future episode. I'm not quite ready to talk about it yet because I would like to start it and then talk about it. But anyway, I purchased these mini skeins, which are on her Madhouse mini base, and it is, the colorway is called Shower Scene. And I think you can see why. You know, black, white, and red. Think about the shower scene in Psycho. The movie is black and white, and then you imagine her being killed in the shower, and then blood everywhere. So anyway, so I just had to buy this yarn. And my plan for this yarn is to make my friend, who is a connoisseur of horror movies, shorty socks for her birthday. I'm thinking of making her the Georgia socks by Tracy Miller, and I have enough yarn to do that, so I think they'll be really cool. So stay tuned for those socks because her birthday is coming up in early December, so I have a little over a month to get these caked up and knitted and gifted. That's all I have for prime time. Next, I'm going to move into Emily's Random Corner. So I have a few things to talk about for this episode. The first is that I have actually been sitting down and reading. Oh my gosh, not just watching Netflix, not just knitting, not just listening to and watching podcasts, but I have been actually picking up books and reading. So I just wanted to share that I read 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini, and this book, I could not put it down. I am really late to the party on this author. This is the same author as The Kite Runner, but this book, I haven't come across a literal page turner in so long. I would get up early to read this book. It was so good. So I just wanted to throw this out there. If you have not read Khaled Hosseini, if you have not read 1,000 Splendid Suns, if you have not read The Kite Runner, although I haven't read The Kite Runner, but I plan to, so I can't really say anything one way or the other about The Kite Runner other than I'm pretty sure it's critically acclaimed. This book was fabulous, so I would highly recommend reading this book. Okay, next thing I wanted to recommend was something that completely changed my life. It is a candle warmer that we bought on Amazon for $9. Oh my gosh. I cannot even tell you how much of a game changer this $9 candle warmer is. I will post a picture of it because it is over here. I'm not sure you can see it. So I have several favorite candles which no longer will be lit because the wicks are just so far down and there's not a lot of wax, or there's not a lot of candle left in the jar. But we bought a candle warmer, which is essentially what it sounds like. You just put the candle on the warmer and it releases a wonderful aroma as if it were being lit, as if it were lit. But there's a couple benefits. The first is you don't have an open flame. So if you forget to blow it out, if you forget to turn it off, actually this candle warmer auto shuts off after 8 hours. Second, if you have pets, there's no danger of them getting near fire. The third is that I hate the smell when you blow out a candle. The smell of the candle going out completely ruins the atmosphere and the scent that you had when the candle was going. So you can turn the candle warmer off and then that's it. You still smell the lovely aromas that had been melting for, an hour or two before. So I cannot get enough of this candle warmer, and I just think everyone should have one in their homes. So there's your unsolicited home goods recommendation for the day. So the last thing I wanted to share with you was, you might have noticed, I got another music box. So my great aunt and my great uncle watched my podcast where I talked about their daughter Tony having passed away, and how at her funeral everyone was invited to take a music box. So my dad got me one that had a sewing theme. It was a sewing machine and all these mice on a sewing machine. And so when my great aunt saw that, she said to my dad, I actually think that Tony has a spinning wheel, which would probably be more in line with Emily's current hobbies. And she's right. And she sent it to me. So I thought that was so cool. So I wanted to show the second music box that I now have from Tony's collection, which is super, super cool. There's actually some knitting needles in there. There's some actual yarn, and mice hanging all on and off the spinning wheel. And it is actually an electric spinning wheel. Electric? You plug it in and it makes noise. So it's pretty cool. So I'll show it to you here. I just want to say also that Aunt Madge and Uncle Jim, if you're watching, hello. And also Cousin Kathleen, if you're watching, hi. I hope you're enjoying. So these yarns are also labeled. So one is Parisian with dye 2, Calico and Manx, Abyssinian with dye 4. There's a little sign here that says cat wool card. And then there's a mouse who's knitting on there. So I'm going to show you what this thing does. You just flick it on, which is pretty cool. And this is by UNESCO. It says Small World of Music. So let me hit it.